What's going on? This is Kareem from djbooth.net, and I'm here in the lab to give you guys a really in-depth and thorough review video of the new Denon MCX8000 professional Serato DJ controller. It's also a standalone professional Denon engine controller, and it's also a standalone mixer as well. This is a perfect unit for all of those mobile DJs out there that want something solid and sturdy. They want to be able to switch back and forth between software and between an internal playing software, which is right here on board inside the MCX8000. You can see all of the information from Serato DJ on the screens. You can also see the Denon DJ information right here on the screens as well. You get a lot of the same type of features using both back and forth. You can use 4 decks of control for Serato DJ and 2 decks of control for Denon engine DJ software. So really cool controller. The big thing about this is that it's a full featured Serato DJ controller that you can switch back and forth between using a computer and not using a computer, and just plugging in 1 or 2 of your USB sticks using the slots all the way to the right. It's a really cool controller all over, and it actually performs very well. It has all of the full features of Serato DJ that you're used to on a flagship style controller. You can see it has the 8 pads for each deck, which gives you the things like slicer, your rolls, your loops, your hot cues, so on and so forth. And it also has the new pitch and time tone play feature, so that way you can use your hot cue, go up and down the scales with new features that are within Serato DJ. So a lot of cool features right on board with this controller right out of the box. You can use it again with Denon DJ's engine software, or again with Serato DJ, or you can just use this bad boy as a 4-channel professional DJ mixer. So we're gonna get into the setup and the actual first impressions. First impressions are excellent. If you guys have been watching this channel for a while, you know that I really like metal construction. I'm from the old school where DJs had to bring their gear with them everywhere, and you wanted something that was built very solid, very sturdy, and Denon DJ always comes through on that promise. All their gear is perfect for mobile DJs, and the MCX8000 is no exception to that rule. It's excellent for road warriors. It has an all metal build quality. It's very solid, but still not too heavy, and still not as huge as some of the other devices out there, some of the competitors such as the DDJ-RZ, the SZ, or even the Roland DJ-808. It's still a bit more compact than those. It has a nice shallow footprint to it as well, and it is kind of easy to carry around, even though it's a nice big controller. But if you're a mobile DJ and you're bringing this controller with you, it looks like a big grown-up toy. It doesn't look like a little, small diminutive controller. It looks like something professional that you really be able to deliver a really good performance with. You have a lot of input and output options. On the rear panel, you have your power button, then you have your area where you plug in the actual power adapter, then you have your controller to PC USB port, then you have another USB port there, which is like a USB hub, so you can plug other auxiliary controllers or anything else that needs USB power right into the MCX8000. You have something really cool on this controller, which is dual XLR outputs. You have booth output and master XLR outputs, and you also have another master RCA output. You also have 4 RCA inputs. 2 of those you can use turntables for because they have the phono preamp in them, and the other 2 are used for line inputs. And again, they're all 4 can be used for line inputs as well. So you can use this bad boy with maybe 4 CDJs or 2 turntables and 2 CDJs, or however you want to rock out with it. You also have 2 microphone inputs, which are very good for mobile DJs. They have their own separate controls for EQ and for volume. So really cool there. One of them is a 1/4 inch and the other is an XLR 1/4 inch combo jack. So really clean on the front and on the back. The front, only thing that's there is your 2 headphone jacks and your crossfader curve control. So it's really easy and simple to use. Only a couple of things on the front, so that way you know exactly what's there and you don't have to always go to the front of the device during your performance or during your show. Next thing, setup. Setup is very easy. All you have to do is plug this into your computer if you want to use it with Serato DJ. You plug in your inputs and your outputs, like your speakers or your amp to your speakers, so that way you can have an output, plug in your headphones, and you're pretty much ready to go. I do run Windows machines, so I had to go to the Denon DJ website and download the latest driver. As soon as that driver was implemented and executed, everything worked perfectly with this within Serato DJ. And for Denon engine software, you can go and download the engine software from the Denon DJ website as well. And that way you can use that software in order to analyze all of your tracks that you have in your library, so you can store things like cue points, loops, and all that good information. It's very, very easy to use. It's very similar to Pioneer DJ's record box, but it does have some of its own quirks and some of its own ways of use. But so far, so good. It's no hiccups with it. Everything runs very easily. You can even plug in your USB device without actually going to use the Denon engine software, but you won't get all your things like hot cues and all of your beat gridding and everything BPM lined up. So you would want to use Denon engine software to analyze your library to make sure you have the perfect tracks ready to go. So let's just get into this controller and see every single detail, every button, every knob, every screen, to let you guys know what the MCX8000 is all about. All right, so here it is, the Denon MCX8000. And we'll start right from the bottom. On the front panel, you just have your crossfader controls and your headphone jacks, as we showed you earlier. And right above that is the crossfader. It is a very, very good crossfader right out of the box. It has very low latency, very low lag, and low cut-in distance as well. So I was able to pull off many of my chirps and other crab type scratches very, very easily with the crossfader that's included. As you can see, there are 2 screw holes right to the side of the crossfader, so you can easily change this for something else of your liking, maybe a mini Inno fader or a Pro X fader or any other type of fader that you may see fit, as long as it works with this unit. And I don't think you're really going to need it, because this is a very, very good fader right out of the box. It does exactly what you need to do. It's nice and crisp, and it works very, very well. Next up from there are the line faders. The line faders do have the fader start mode, so you can do fader start if that's what you're interested in. And they have way more resistance than the crossfader. The crossfader is really, really loose, really easy to perform your scratching with, but the line faders are very, very resistant to the touch. So that's very good for when you're trying to do those long and accurate fades. You have 4 different channels here, as you can see, and you're allowed to assign the crossfader to any different channel exactly where you want it to be. It can be in the left, it can be in the right, or you can put it in the middle, and the crossfader will have no bearing on the channel that is chosen on the through mode. Next up, you have your cue section. This is where you can actually cue up in your headphones what you want to hear, what you don't want the crowd to hear. And then you have your cue section over here to the right. Very nice placement instead of being on the bottom. I like it here on the face, so that way you can easily see where your volume is and exactly where you're at in your levels. And you also have split cue as well, so that way you can hear your master in one headphone and the other ear cup will show what you have queued up on the cue mode. Really cool, really easy to use. Everything's right here on the face of everything. Next up, you have your low pass and high pass filter knobs for each of your 4 channels. These work whether you're in PC mode, Denon DJ mode, or if you're using this as an external mixer. Each of your lines also have their own individual LED meters, so that way you can see exactly where you are in the mix. They're very accurate, and they'll make sure that you're able to stay out of the reds. The masters also have their own master indicator, so that way if you're using a mixture of different inputs such as PC or Denon DJ or even some external decks, you can easily see at a glance if you're disturbing the complete master by running it into the reds. Next up, you have your sampler volume knob, and this is used for when you're using Serato DJ mode. This will be your sampler volume knob instead of having another fader here, as in some other controllers. Here you have a sampler volume knob. Next up, you have your 3-band EQ. These are full kill EQs for each of your different channels. They work very, very well. All of these are bolted down completely to the chassis. It's all metal posts underneath, and everything feels very high quality. They do have a center detent right at the perfect middle balance of your EQs, and you also have your gain knobs all the way at the top, and they have a different color, so that way you know they're actually gain knobs instead of EQ knobs or something else. Next up, you have your microphone section all the way over here to the left. It's almost like it's its own channel, which is really good for mobile DJ use. You have two different microphone inputs, and each one of them have a low and high EQ, as well as their own level control. So this is very, very good for your mobile DJ applications when you need multiple mics right here at your fingertips. You also have echo on both available on and off, and you can do those individually as well. And then you have your mic echo minimum or maximum, so that way you can adjust it here. You have your mic on, mic off, and then you can talk over, which will lower the volume of all of your channels, so that way you can use your mic to speak over the actual playing music. Next up, above the channels, you have your PC line, your different indicators here, so that way you can change your different channels to what you want the input to be. You can make them all PC, which means they'll all work on Serato DJ. Right now we have the deck 4 and deck 3 currently off, but we're using decks 1 and 2. Deck 1, we're using PC, which is giving us the Serato DJ connection. You can see the display here for Serato DJ. And over here in the deck 2, we're using this with Denon DJ engine. And as you can see, we have the waveform and all of our display over here for that different deck. As soon as we switch this over to PC or line, it will shut off on the screen, or it will go over to PC and show us Serato DJ's deck, which is currently playing. Next up, you have your standard effects knobs and your buttons at the top. Your effects buttons include 1 and 2, so that way you can select each of your different individual inputs to work with your FX1 module or your FX2 module as well. All the way to the right, you have your master level knob, which corresponds to the master inputs on the back. Then you have a booth level knob that's separate. That corresponds to the booth XLR input on the back. And you also have a high and low EQ for your booth. So that way, when you guys are in the clubs or you're using a separate set of monitors, you can actually dial in and get an overall EQ for the sound of the booth separate from what your master is playing. Really cool feature by Denon, especially for those mobile DJs who actually have monitors that are close to them, so that way they can accurately monitor exactly what they need to mix in next. Next up, we're going to go to the actual decks themselves. But before we get into that, you'll notice they have a sticker here on the front that says Serato DVS Upgrade Ready. And that means that you guys can purchase the Serato DJ Club Kit. And that way you can use this as a mixer that works with Serato DJ for your external turntable timecode decks. You can use timecode vinyl, and you can also use timecode CDs as well to work with Serato DJ. So you don't have to use the deck features that you see here. You can use external decks as well. Next up, we'll move to the decks finally, and all the way at the bottom we have familiar sections. If you guys are familiar with flagship style Serato DJ controllers, we have the play, pause, and the cue. This is a completely mirrored deck layout here. A lot of DJs don't like that. Some DJs like it. I don't have a preference either way, but it is completely mirrored aside from the FX controls, which show the FX1, 2, 3, then beats on each side as the same. So all the way at the bottom you have the play, pause control, the cue button, the sync button, and your beat grid adjusting and setting right here on the fly, so it's easy to set your different grids to make sure you're perfectly on BPM. You have your familiar 8 pads here. These are probably Akai pads, so they're very, very responsive. They feel very good to the touch. As you guys know, Denon DJs are part of the InMusic brands, so they're in the same house as Numark and Akai. So these are very, very good pads. They're very responsive. No matter where you hit them, they play nice and perfectly. You have cue, cue loop, flip, roll, saved loop, slicer, sampler, velocity sampler, and if you have the pitch and time plugin, you hit shift and sampler and you'll be able to select the different cue point that you guys want to change the actual pitch to, and that way you can pitch play using the buttons here right on board. As long as you have that checked off in Serato DJ, that feature is here too. You have your familiar looping section. This is familiar to the different Pioneer style setups. You have your auto loop big button, then you can make it half or you can double it. You have your loop in and out when you're using this in manual loop mode. You also have pitch, bend, and range buttons here. You have your shift button on each side, all the way on the outsides of the actual decks. Then you have a nice long feel, long throw pitch sliders, which are very, very nice as well. They have a center click to them and a center light, so that way you can tell when you're back at the 0. Next up, you guys have the vinyl mode. This will turn this platter into either vinyl mode or into jog wheel mode. Really useful, easy to use for your different way. You also have deck 1, deck 3 buttons, so that way you can switch this over and the screen also corresponds to the different deck switch. Once you switch the screen over, you'll be over in deck 3 or deck 1 on the left side and deck 2 and deck 4 on the right side. Speaking of the jog wheel section, this is a very, very good jog wheel. It feels very, very great to the touch. It actually has a nice weight to it, and it's just very, very accurate. It has the needle LED indicator, which I find to be very, very accurate, very easy to pull off some of your tricks here. And they don't have anything in the center of the jog wheel, but that's no fear because you have these excellent, excellent screens. You also have a sensor button here that will monetarily spin this track backwards if you want to censor something like a curse word. You also have a slip button here for Serato DJ. Slip button also works in Denon engine mode as well. And then you have a stop time knob, so that way you can change the time in which the track actually stops.
Why you got a 12 car garage? Pulling out the raps car. Cutting nigga pussy is hard. I turn it from the soft to the hard. I grew up in the streets without the hard.
Really, really cool feature to have here. The stop time is always better than the start time because you always want an instant startup time. They also have a needle search here, so that way you can go through your complete track by using this touch needle strip, and you can go all the way backwards and forwards through your track. Really, really cool to use, easy to use as well. You have your key lock button here, or you can sync key by pressing shift and the key lock button. And then you have all of your screen controls here as well. As you can see on the left, we are playing in Serato mode. On the right, we're playing in engine. And you can go back and forth very easily on the fly, and you can mix the two between each other very simply. You have 2 USB ports here, so that way you can plug in 2 different hard drives or flash drives, whatever is USB compatible that has your music on it. Some of my tracks didn't quite load in engine that did load in Serato DJ, but I'm sure with some more bug fixing and tweaks, engine will be able to load those tracks eventually as well. Next up, you have your USB 1 eject, USB 2 eject button, so that way you can eject your different drives very, very safely. Next up is all of your screen controls. All the way at the top, you have your FX1, 2, and 3, and then your beats knob on both sides. It's all the same. And you have your on buttons for each of those effects as well. Then you have your FX select as well, which is underneath that. So that way, if you press shift and one of these buttons, you'll either go through the Serato DJ effects and you'll be able to select your effects right there, or you'll be able to go through the onboard effects, which are present on the MCX8000. The onboard effects that we have here are very, very good. They have the reverb, the delay, they have the echo, the phaser, the noise. So it has a good setup and selection of effects right there on the actual device right from the factory. It's really easy to use. The screens as well, as you can see, we can go to different views and we can either see your track list. And while we're using this track list, we can see the different view that will show all of your different tracks. It'll show your crates, your playlists, and you can sort by these. You can also sort by BPM, you can sort by key, and you can get everything exactly how you need it right here with the different views of the different software that you see right here on the screen. You have the waveform here. You also have an overall waveform, so you can easily see where you are in the full track. And then you have your effects controls below that. Next up, you have your browse knob, which is all the way up here on the right. And this will allow you to select your different tracks. You can go back, you can go forward, you can load prep and open your prep as well. And you have all of the controls you need right there at your fingertips. This is one of the few controllers that have screens that I'm actually able to use as long as you have your playlist and your crate set up correctly without looking at the computer. It's also very, very good when using Denon engine software. That way you don't need a computer at all. And that works very, very well as well. And it's very easy to switch back and forth between the two. So in conclusion, the new Denon MCX8000 digital DJ controller is probably the best DJ controller for any mobile DJ. The reason why we say that is because you have multiple input and output options. You have 2 different microphones. You have 2 different XLR outputs. You also have all of the different features that you guys are going to need if you're going to bring this with you on the go, meaning it's very, very solidly built. It's all metal, so that way it can stand the different rigors of your different road trips, and it will just be able to hold up to all the DJ abuse that we put our DJ gear through. Perfect for mobile DJs, and it's also perfect for mobile DJs because if you want to use Serato or another software, you can do that. And if anything happens to your computer or something goes haywire on the fly, you can easily switch over to Denon DJ's engine software and run this bad boy on board without any computer whatsoever. Really tight setup, really tightly integrated, and it's very seamless to switch back and forth between the two, and also to switch between any other live sources that you may have on the side. So if you're a mobile DJ, you do weddings and you take CDs, at least you can have a CDJ on the side, plug it into one of your little line ports, and you're ready to go. So it really ticks all of the boxes for the mobile DJ market. You have separate microphone volume and EQ controls, so it just works perfectly for those mobile DJ style applications. It also has these excellent onboard dual screens which show you all the information you need for Serato or for Denon Engine's DJ software. It's really easy to use. The screens are nice and big, they're bright, and they have lots and lots of information on them. They also have these full features of Serato DJ built right in, including all of your pad functions, all of your pitch and time functions are also on board. You also have Serato Flip right on board, so it's a very, very full featured Serato DJ controller. It's also a full standalone DJ 4-channel mixer, so if you want to use this bad boy just for your sources alone, just to use as a mixer, and you might only use the controller portion sometimes, then you can do that with this unit as well. The MCX8000 also has really, really accurate jog wheels with a nice LED ring around it. It's very easy to see. You can have that light up many different ways. It's an excellent jog wheel. And the crossfader had a very low cut-in, low latency. So even though you can use or replace this with something like an Innofader, I don't think you guys are really gonna have to do that here on the MCX8000 because I was able to pull off almost all my cuts with the fader that's on board. It was an excellent fader right there, ready and out the box. It also has onboard effects right out of the box without using Serato DJ. So that way you can plug in any of your sound sources using the USB sticks, Denon Engine, and you'll be able to run the onboard effects that are present in the unit. On the downside, there's only 2 decks available when you're running this in Denon Engine mode. So you don't get really 4 channels of Denon Engine control. You only get 2 channels of control on board when you're not using this in Serato DJ mode. When you are using this in Serato DJ mode, you're also going to still probably need some type of keyboard or laptop. So that way you guys can actually type in and search for the different songs that you need to query. It would have been nice to have a nice touch screen or QWERTY keyboard right here built into the screen, so that way you can easily search through your whole full library. But if you have everything set up nicely, then the screens will come in handy through your crates and through your playlists, and you'll be able to easily DJ without looking at your computer. But for those times when you might want to search for a track that might not have been on one of those playlists or in one of those crates, you are probably still going to need a keyboard. My final gripe with the unit is that you do not have post crossfader effects with the onboard effects within Denon Engine right here on board. The onboard effects are only post line fader and not post crossfader. Other than that, this was an excellent choice. Again, my top choice for mobile DJs who are on the go, who are doing weddings, birthdays, high school parties, things of that nature. This is the perfect unit for that type of application, and it has everything that you guys are going to need in order to get you through that trying gig. So for more on the full review, you guys can head on over to www.djbooth.net/DJS. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up if you like this video. Always make sure you subscribe so that way you know exactly when these new videos are coming out. And as always, thanks for watching.